So welcome everyone for today's masterclass session. And first of all, congratulations to each one of you, for making it to BITS Law School. I can see some new faces, who have recently enrolled in the last phase of round 4. Okay. So there are a few things before we start the session. So this is not an admission related session. So we would request you not to ask questions related to admission. This is a master class, like a dummy class. It will give you a feel of what BITS Law School teaches you or how our methodology is about teaching at BITS Law School. So the topic for today's masterclass is technology and society, concepts to think about the complexities of law and AI. So before we start the session, again, a request. This is a topic more related to society and how AI impacts the society. So we have with us Professor Shireen, Dr. Shireen Mirza. She is an associate professor of sociology at BITS Law School. Her areas of interest are urban anthropology, ecology, religion-based science and technology. She has taught courses on development, urban studies, urban ecology, climate change, digital technology at some of the institutes like Azim Premji University, Indraprasth Institute of Information Technology, Delhi, Ambedkar University. She has also taught at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at IIT Madras. So I would request and welcome Shireen, Professor Shireen, for today's session. Professor Shireen, yeah, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for that introduction. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to BITS Law School. I'm Shireen. I'm a sociologist, as Kevin said. I'm a social anthropologist. And I hope everyone can hear me. I'm loud and audible, Kevin? Yeah?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yes. So I'm happy to welcome you to BITS Law School. I would be looking forward to having you in class and look forward to teaching you. My work as an anthropologist, I don't know whether you know what an anthropologist does. I work with people. I do interviews, I do ethnographies. And my work is about waste sites and landfill sites in Mumbai city. And I use a little bit of technology and society in my own work. And I'm going to be talking a little about this new course that I'm designing. I'm very excited about, which we will be introducing in BITS Law School. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about, right? Technology and society, this particular course. So this is a course that I'm going to be offering our current 2024 batch. And this is a course that students will be taking in their second year, their third semester. And particularly if you join the BA stream, then, you will be taking this as a core course. And so by the time you come to this course and by the time, we do this course that you're going to actually get a little small flavor of today, you would have done a little bit of legal history. You would have done introduction to politics. You would have done political ideologies. You would have done a course with me in your first year, in your second semester. And this is a course that I teach. It's called Indian Society and the Legal Imagination. And what we are doing differently in BITS Law School when it comes to our social sciences, humanities, and our law courses is that, we are trying to make social sciences very relevant to law. So in particular, if I can speak about my discipline, sociology, we went through a lot of conversation in the school where we felt that, normally in most law schools, you would do sociology, this is how you would do it, right? You would do introduction to sociology, then you would do Indian sociology, where you will do caste, class, gender, tribe, village, so on. And then you will do sociological thinkers. But we felt that this kind of an old school classical approach, it kind of keeps sociology away from law, and that actually we can bring something of the discipline into law in the sense that, that the discipline can offer a varieties of ways and concepts to think about law, to ask the question, what is law, and actually to connect it to society. So just to give you an example, that in the ISIL course, the Indian Society and Legal Imagination course that I teach, which you will do before you do technology and society, we did, so at the end of the course, we did a prison visit. So we went to the Thane prison, and we all students did an ethnography where they saw how law works in everyday life. And what we're trying to do through this is to look at how law is not just something which is, a black letter version, which is a doctrinal, or it's not just intrinsic to its own rational principles, but law is something which is, seen as part of society, which is part of people's imagination, is something that is society created by society and is part of everyday life, right? So you would actually have done, a more primary course, and you would, and when I teach you law and society, and when I talk about social construction, you would have done an entire course with me to know what I'm talking about. Okay, so, and then we would do in your second year, in your third semester, we would do this technology and society course. Right. So yeah, so in BITS Law School, we're trying to do this differently. We're trying to, look at how sociology can give you the principles that you will need to understand all the law courses that will come after. So when you do a technology and society, it will help you think about, say, when you do, when you do something like intellectual property, right? It will give you that basic understanding on to actually to think about it, right? And that's the aim of this course. And we thought we should have sociology as a subject that will mobilize and push you to think in a very holistic, critical manner when it comes to law. Okay. Now, in this masterclass today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be, talking about technology and society, and talking about artificial intelligence or AI, and it's linked to the legal profession. Okay, now I'm sure all of you here, I don't know you yet. I don't know what you think and what your views are, but I'm sure all of you are following the debates on AI and how it's going to revolutionize the how it's going to revolutionize the legal profession, how it's going to change legal education. And I'm sure all of you already have some kind of an evaluation, some kind of a take on, whether this is a good thing, whether it's a bad thing, whether it's going to lead to better access to justice, whether it's going to give a faster delivery of justice. So with, automation and AI, or whether you're going to, people are going to be able to access and access courts and courts are going to be able to work faster and so on. Or you may even have a perspective, or you may already be thinking that, is AI actually good for the legal profession? Is there a certain bias that AI will come up with? Will it lead to unemployment of lawyers? How is it going to impact the legal profession? Can we rely on AI to give us the right kind of data? Is it objective? So I'm sure all of you already have a certain way in which you're thinking about this huge change that's going to really come into the way legal profession is going to how it's going to impact the legal profession, right? So I'm sure all of you already have some ways in which you're thinking about it, right? Now, what happens when you do a course like technology and society is that, it helps you think about this debate in a more meaningful and a more calculated and a more evaluative manner. And what do I mean? What do I mean when I say that? If you look at the way in which we're talking about the impact that AI will have in the legal profession, there's a sort of an optimism on the one hand, right? And there's a pessimism on the other hand, right? The optimism is, there's a lot of optimistic voices that are saying that, AI is going to lead us to a more progressive legal practice. It's going to democratize law because now people will be able to approach directly, maybe they will kind of key in their facts, and the AI will give them a certain kind of it will formulate petition. It will give them, certain access to legal knowledge that they otherwise wouldn't have, and they have to rely on a particular lawyer, pay a hefty fees, and so on. So the optimism is saying that this is a very progressive thing that's going to happen, and a better technology means that we're more modern, we're more developed. And then there are also these very pessimistic voices that are saying that that AI could actually mean the end of the human race, that it could mean that machines will take over, that the legal profession will change in a way that is irreversible and, may lead to unemployment. And there could be a really sort of a very huge transformation, a huge revolution that will happen. And when you're sort of stuck in this very polarized, what I call almost like a false choice. It's not like any of us have a choice, right, with whether AI is going to come in or not. And so, when you are in this in this moment where you're stuck between this binary or this opposition, and in this this false choice, this optimism on the one hand and this pessimism on the other hand, a course like technology and society, it really takes it away from this binary and takes it away from this false choice, takes it away from yes, I like AI, or no, I don't like AI, or yes, AI is good, or no, AI is bad. And it actually gives you tools, critical tools to actually make your own evaluation, to make your own assessment, to make your own judgment, and to really talk about AI in law in a very kind of particular context, right? And so this course really, enables you to think about what is at hand, and the change that's really that's almost on our doorstep, right? And we can think about this in terms of questions of justice. You can think about it in terms of legal futures. What is that future going to be like? We can think in terms of societal concerns about the vulnerable population, about access, about democracy. We can think in terms also of governance and regulation. Who is going to govern? Whose voice is going to be heard? Whose voice is not going to be heard? And so on. So it actually gives us tools to evaluate, judge, and assess, and really, not have this false choice on whether it's good or whether it's bad. It really kind of makes it far more complex and far more complicated, right? And so, which is why at BITS Law School, we thought that, we should really bring this as a foundational core course where we offer it to students, and we really, give you tools to make this assessment, and, on which then, all your IP and other courses, you go into those courses with some firmer ground and with some critical tools. Yeah. So in the masterclass today, I will sort of give you a little flavor of what is this new discipline of technology and society, of kind of mixing sociology with philosophy and law and political science. And and there is a whole discipline that does exist, right? And so I'm going to give you a slight flavor of this. Yeah. And before I get into I share screen and I get into to the subject matter, I just want to tell you that, I'm not exactly somebody who understands AI very well. I'm not exactly somebody who's very well versed in it. And my own take on this is, I take, my favorite takeaway is from someone called Jerry Seinfeld. He's a comedian. I don't know, not of your generation. Not my generation either. He's much older. But so Jerry Seinfeld has something really funny, and I think my lack of expertise, but also my position would be kind of similar to Jerry Seinfeld, where he says, let's be honest. Most of the intelligence we have encountered in our life is pretty artificial, right? So when we say artificial intelligence, it's like, intelligence has always been artificial, right? And he says, we are smart enough to have invented AI, but we're dumb enough to need it, and so stupid that we can't figure out whether we did the right thing or not, right? So I think that's where I really stand. But I would like to know where you stand, right? And I would like to see, and I'd like to, yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation we will have when I finish this masterclass. And there will be parts of it where it will be slightly dense. I will be drawing on some kind of philosophy, and I'd like you, and I don't expect you to fully understand it. So, like I said, when we really get to this, there will be a whole lot of courses you would have done. And so, when we talk about technical concepts, you will know what I'm talking about. And so I don't expect you to fully understand it, but I think, you will get a sort of a flavor, right? And that's really what I intend to do in this masterclass. Right? Now, having said that, let me actually, share screen, and let me, actually begin with my PowerPoint. Okay, I'm going to actually begin this lecture, this masterclass, with a small clip that I have of Justice Chandrachud. Do you all know who Justice Chandrachud is? Yeah, I'm hoping that that's a yes. And this is a talk that he had given at the launch of something called the Palette Center, which is an initiative by BITS Law School and by pan-science innovation, in which they're trying to integrate AI into legal education, legal practice, and judicial processes. And so I'm going to start off with this clip. Okay, so let's see what Justice Chandrachud is saying about how AI is going to change the legal field. Okay, and so I'll play this clip. And then I will go into really maybe understanding what Justice Chandrachud is saying. And from there, I will go into the way in which we can understand his position on AI and law through the perspectives from technology and society. That discipline I'm talking about, right, which is interdisciplinary and so on. We'll see actually where we can fit what he's saying into those perspectives. Yeah. So I'm going to now play you this clip that actually took place at an event in Delhi between BITS Law School, Pan Science Innovation, at the launch of this new center that we're all very excited about at BITS Law School. And so please hear him carefully, and I'll then proceed to, kind of, analyzing it and doing a critical appreciation of what he's saying. Yeah. Okay, let me try playing this.
The very distinguished Attorney General for India, Mr. R. Venkatramani, Dr. Ashish Bharadwaj, Dean of BITS Law School, Dr. Anshul Pandey, Founder Pan Science Innovations, and Soumya, Hardik Dave, CEO of Nyay AI, and distinguished guests who are present here this morning. Honestly, I'm delighted to be a part of this revolutionary launch. And by revolutionary, I do not use the term lightly. I mean transformational in scope and immediate in impact. Revolutionary because it is not just about introducing another piece of technology into the legal landscape. It's about fundamentally reimagining how legal research, practice, and adjudication can evolve with the convergence of artificial intelligence and institutional best practices to build capacity and enable efficient, accessible, and intelligent legal systems. 2 years ago, we spoke about the post-truth world, where truth itself is what you manufacture. There is no objective truth. We are now moving to a post-professional society, which will require digitization of the professions, the routinization of professional work, and the demystification of professionals. How we use technology in our professions is in our hands. And I'll only conclude with what a very distinguished writer by the name of Anthony Kenny said in a book called What I Believe in 2006. Technology, he said, puts the sins of omission as immediately and inevitably within our power as it puts sins of commission. But I think these are unique ventures which are now being pursued, and they are a sign of changing India. And I hope that they will be a forerunner of a changing legal profession. The legal profession all over the world is hopelessly behind its times. Judicial systems are horribly behind times. And I think it's innovations like this which can aspire to make our legal systems more in sync with the times, and the judicial system less of a laggard and more of a forerunner for change. So I thank both Anshul and Dr. Ashish Bharadwaj and the entire team for putting this together, and present you with my best wishes for your success. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, so I don't know what you think. I'd be interested to know what you think of what the Justice said, former Justice said. But I take away two important points, right? So the first is that he's saying that AI, artificial intelligence, is revolutionary, right? And he's saying it's not just another technology, but it's going to reimagine the legal practice, legal research, and adjudication. It's going to reimagine, it's going to change it, right? That's what he's saying. That's the first point. The second point, which I take away, is the fact that he's talking about what he calls the post-professional society. Okay, now that's a very important and almost a sociological point he's making. And, Justice Chandrachud is one, if you read his judgments, you feel like he really has studied his sociology, his gender really well. And he's been a good student of sociology. You can see it in his judgments. So, when he's talking about a post-professional society, what is he saying? What is he actually saying? Let's just, go down to all the points that he's making and try to understand it. And so the first thing he's saying is that with the coming in of AI, the legal profession is going to get digitized, right? So what he means is that, AI is going to actually manage cases. There's going to be a software and automation where it's possible to e-file, to have e-hearings, and, you can have AI for legal research and due diligence. And one is not thinking, the future where you kind of prompt give a prompt to the AI. I'm not just thinking ChatGPT, but perhaps better softwares, and then the AI then gives you kind of drafts your petition for you and kind of comes up with legal precedents and so on, right? So that's sort of digitization of the profession he's talking about. That's the first point. The second point, he's saying that there's going to be a routinization of professional work. Now, what does he mean by that? He's saying that, now if you say wanted to file a property matters, a person, an applicant, wanted to file, say, a property matter or a criminal case or matrimonial dispute, you will first go and find a good lawyer and you will pay a hefty fees and so on, right? And that person will actually, take your case, take the facts of your case, put it into a certain kind of an argument, look for precedences and so on and so forth, and then actually draft your petition. Now he's saying is that all of this work is going to get professionalized and routinized, so much so that the room for individual discretion of individual lawyers is going to really come down. That work is going to really come down because it's all going to be automated, right? And he's saying that's going to lead to the third point that he's saying, which is that of the demystification. So the lawyers are no more going to be the experts. Lawyers are not going to be the, the heavily paid, important people who will save your property and save your business and maybe save you from a bad marriage. But there's going to be a demystification of the process in which, you and the AI together can actually, dive into this huge area of law and actually get what you want faster, cheaper, better, and so on, right? So there's going to be a demystification of this profession. And of course, we're not sure on how to think of this as either good or bad. All of these three are very important sociological processes that former Justice Chandrachud identifies. But I think that, there's a sense in which you can understand where he's coming from by the third point that he's making, apart from saying it's revolutionary, apart from saying that it's a post-professional society that's going to be created, a post, the entire legal profession is going to be, will move away from individual lawyers and experts to something else. And the third point that he makes is that it's in our hands. It's in our hands of how AI, whether we deliver justice or whether we deliver injustice, right? And it's in our hands, right? And then he, of course, has that thing that the sins of omission and the sins of commission. So what AI can emphasize or what AI can, forget, it all depends on what we do, our intentions and our motivations, right? And that's the point that he's making. Now, let's think about this also a little further. By going into technology and society, right? And by going into three perspectives. So I'm going to see where we can locate Justice Chandrachud's position in these three perspectives that I'm going to discuss in the remaining part of my masterclass. Okay, so in these three perspectives, the first perspective talks about technology with a capital T. And in this perspective, here the idea is that technology is this autonomous, it is this independent force that is completely deterministic. It's going to determine and it's going to take away from individual choice, individual autonomy, individual will, and it's going to shape a future which is irreversible and in which human autonomy will have no place. And in fact, we will be subservient to the technology. That's the first perspective. And in some senses, what Justice Chandrachud is saying that the effect of AI or its impact on the legal profession discussion will not come under this perspective. Okay, it'll come under perhaps a second perspective, and that second perspective is what is called the human-made character of technology, which I will be discussing. In this perspective, the idea is that technology has certain values. It's not neutral. So if we think of science as having certain kinds of principles, having certain kinds of theories, certain ways in which it understands the natural world, technology we think of in a very layperson way is the application of that theory, right? So technology is supposed to be neutral. You have science and technology is the application of it. In the second perspective, this is questioned, and technology is seen as not something which is neutral, but which is laden with values and laden with power, right? And this is what Justice Chandrachud, I think his characterization falls within the second perspective, where he says that it would depend on our motivations. It will depend on, if we place justice at the heart of how AI develops, then AI can guarantee us a future which is more just. It will depend on what we make of it, right? That comes on the second perspective. And the third perspective is a sort of a in-between. It is in between a deterministic and in between, a human choice kind of a perspective, where it says that, there is a way in which the software, the developers, the material aspect of AI will have an effect which is, which cannot be controlled fully, but it doesn't mean that it is a force that, that we will just, that will just determine how things evolve. But there's a co-evolution. It will develop in a particular way. And I'll talk about each of these perspectives in some depth. Okay. First perspective, technology as an autonomous force, technology with a capital T. Okay, now in this, the philosophers that I will be teaching in this course, when they talk about technology with a capital T, they're talking about modern technology, right? And the way in which they are talking about modern technology, they're talking about it as some kind of a representation of a very an instrumental use of reality. So everything, right? Whether it is people, the relationships we have, right, with one another, with institutions, with knowledge, with nature, right? Whether it's a forest, whether it's a river, whether it's the sea, with all of these, according to this perspective, is very instrumental. Also, nature is seen as a resource. People are seen as resources. Relationships are seen, whether it's a contractual relationship or a love relationship or a marital relationship. All relationships are seen as instrumental, and technology is a sort of an instrument, which converts nature into a kind of a resource, right? That's the way in which this philosophy contributes to this perspective. And in this philosophy, in this perspective, technology is seen to have its own laws. It has its own unique way of functioning that is internal to itself, and it's not open to human choice, and it is therefore deterministic. It is a force that will determine, how we behave, right? So, I mean, so in like if we just look at, say, our phones, right? We may think that we have a choice not to really, be addicted to all the shots that we kind of scroll through. But yet there's a way in which that technology has an effect on us, determines, everything, how we think, who our friends are, how we conduct our relationship.
Shireen, we can't hear you.
Shireen,
Shireen,
we're not able to hear you.
I think we should call her.
I'll just give her a call.
Yeah.
Seen as something which reveals or which has a standing.
So sorry, Shireen, for interrupting, but please can you repeat whatever you just said like for 2 minutes ago, because your voice was not audible.
Yeah. Sorry, which part? Which part should I repeat, Mrinalini?
It's just
Just a minute back.
Okay.
We couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about this technology as a deterministic force, which is independent of human choice, right? And I was saying that this idea, this perspective, which is very different from what Justice Chandrachud was saying, where he was saying AI depends on our motivations and how we use it. In this perspective, technology and AI is seen as independent of human choice, and that almost that we will have no control over it, right? And this perspective draws from the philosophy of Martin Heidegger, and he's a very important German philosopher. And he has an essay called "The Question Concerning Technology," and he talks about modern technology as this kind of an objectifying process. And he uses the term in framing, and he says, unlike craft, so like if you think of craft, you think of like say, weaving a sari or making something where you produce an individualized product, a thing where you put a little bit of yourself into that, when you bake a cake, any of that, right? He says modern technology is very different from that. It is in some ways it's about mass constructing things as resources, right? So that's so this perspective draws on the philosophy of Martin Heidegger. It also draws from the philosophy of someone called Louis Mumford. Okay, and Mumford talks about two different varieties of technology. He talks about polytechniques, where technology is something that integrates human needs and potential, and it is very small scale. So I'm thinking, your fridge and your mixie and your AC and so on. These are, according to Mumford, they are polytechniques. They are, small scale and multiple, and they are used for pursuing human goals, right? But that is, he says, different from what they call monotechniques, where you have a technology which is big, which has a large scale, it works as a mega machine, and it actually drastically changes power dynamics, right? And so he actually makes this categorization. And so Mumford's thinking also informs this perspective, right? Which is, when we think of AI, that from the account of this perspective, AI will be something that is outside of human control. Yeah, and also draws from the something called the Frankfurt School of Philosophy. I won't go into that. That's a whole tradition in itself, but I will move on to the second perspective. And this is where we can actually place Justice Chandrachud's thinking on AI. And according to this perspective, technology is a construct. It is a human-made human choice. It depends on us, on our human mindset. It is shaped by human interests and human values. It's not just an application of science, but it is something which is social and political, right? And here, there's another philosopher called Langford Winner, and he has this very interesting essay that he writes. It's called "Do Artifacts Have Politics?" Okay, and Winner argues that all technological artifacts, any technology you take, right? He says that there is a political choice that has gone into the way that technology has been developed and used, right? So he says, so for example, if we take the example of, say, solar energy, or we take the example of CNG. Now, if you remember, I know you all are quite young, but in Delhi, when you had Sheila Dikshit's government, if I remember correctly, there was a whole political motivation to move from petrol and diesel to CNG, to have public vehicles using CNG. Now, this is a certain kind of what, according to Langford Winner, there's a certain kind of political choice that goes into which technology is deployed, right? Or say in the case of Karnataka, yeah, if you're building a house, there are rules and laws that require you to actually have rain harvesting, infrastructure in the house that you built. These are, according to Winner, these are, certain kinds of political choices that go into the technologies we adopt. Or say moving to electric vehicles, right? From coal to electric. Again, these are political choices. But then Winner also makes a distinction, and he says that there are certain other technologies, okay, which are not just about political choices, but the technology itself, it is so politically laden that it changes the entire structure of how control and governance happens. Okay, so he says, so for example, with nuclear technology, right, or with say, your Kudangalung plant, or your any kind of nuclear plant, he says the minute you have the coming in of a nuclear technology, so say coming in of the drones, right? There's a way in which that technology will require a certain authoritarian control, a certain authoritarian form of government and decision making, so that the risks are in control, right? So that's your Langford winner, right? And but I think what I'm trying to say is that in the second perspective, the idea is that that no technology is neutral, that every technology has some kind of is complex, is informed by social and political contexts, right? And that it is depends on us, on how, what is the kind of political context will depend on what kind of technology we adopt. And so therefore how AI develops will depend on the kind of decision making and the kind of governance and the kind of rules and regulations with which developers and users of that technology uh, develop that technology and use that technology, right? So and I think that's where justice on the truth can be placed, right? Within this perspective is also a very important tradition and a very important discipline called STS, Science, Technology, and Society. Now, this is an entire discipline where neither science nor technology is seen as any form of natural knowledge, right? And science and technology are seen as, so when we think of science, we feel like, that there were like with physics and whatever, that's where we were taught in school, right? There are these laws and these rules that kind of, that came from the natural world. And science is just studies that, and then it comes up with its own theories. But according to STS, in science technology studies, all of these scientific theories are various, they are multiple, they have different meanings and interpretations, and that they are a product of human kind of human values, right? So you would look at scientists, engineers, software developers, techies, all of these as people who belong to certain communities, who belong to certain institutions, who are schooled in certain kind of pedagogies, and they construct kind of stable structures and networks, right? And so STS also is an entire discipline that actually tells us that technology is something which is linked to society and social values, and therefore how a technology develops, how a technology is regulated, how a technology affects, depends on the kind of social forms of governance, social values with which that technology is developed. Okay. So that's the second perspective. And the third perspective and the final perspective, this is a sort of a between the two perspectives. So on the one hand, we had technology is independent, technology is autonomous, technology will determine, and we have no choice. On the other hand, you had this idea, the second perspective, that technology is something where in which human values and human motivations and political arrangements, laws, and regulations have an effect in the way that technology develops. So you had human choice on the second. On the other hand, this third perspective is kind of in between, right? And the third perspective is called the co-evolution of technology and society. Okay, and in this perspective is the idea that first of all that technology is not non-malleable, right? That it can't really, you can't mold it according to your choice and your motivation, right? There's a way in which that technology is at least at some point becomes fixed, and at some point there's and there's not much that we can do, right? So they have a recognition that there's nothing, that choice is not uh, limitless. Then it also has this perspective also accounts for the fact that there are unintended consequences of a technology. So when you develop a technology, you might not intend it to lead to unemployment. You might not intend it to lead to injustice. You might not intend it to lead to loss of control. You may not intend that technology will lead to an authoritarian form of governance. What do I mean by authoritarian form of governance? Where you don't have democratic processes. It is through, I don't know, one strong leader through which decisions are made, that people are not and processes are not involved in that decision making, right? So, so there are these unintended consequences that are accounted for in this perspective. Then, in this perspective, there's also this idea that, when you have new technologies, there's a certain kind of novelty and change that it will bring about, which make it hard to govern, particularly big technologies. And AI is one such, as Justin Chandrachud was saying. It is a big revolutionary technology, right, which makes it very hard to govern. And that there is a certain path dependency. So once you kind of adopt that technology, it's almost like taking a highway, right? Once you take that highway, you're dependent on that path. There's no way out. You're kind of locked in. You just have to go where the technology leads you, right? So there's a certain sense that, yes, it's somewhat deterministic, it's somewhat controlling, but there's also a way in which technology evolves. It's not fixed. It moves, right? It depends on there are economic considerations, there are power constellations, all of that. It depends on the governance and the structure, and then there's a way in which, again, what kind of society will then determine what kind of technology, and its application is constantly evolving, is constantly emerging, and its impact on society is not fixed but dynamic. It's changing, right? And in this perspective, there's a very interesting philosopher again called Bruno Latour, and he has a very interesting theory called actor network theory. And I won't really go into a detail now, but just very briefly, he tells the theory that brings in the material aspect of, say, something like AI, and links it with the social aspect. So it brings in the material, that is the software, the algorithm, the I don't know, the all the the technicalities of the technology, and links it with the people and the social aspect, right? And it tells you that, there's a sort of ways in which how the technology evolves, how the technology moves will depend on, again, society. It will depend on our values, our economic considerations. It will depend on, the kind of laws we have, the kind of governance we have. And there's a way in which that technology is not fixed, but it will evolve. So if we have a society in which decisions are taken in a very authoritarian manner, which is not democratic, which is very centralized, then the technology we will get will be very centralized, right? So then, in the case of AI, who will regulate, right? Will it go the China way, or will it go, or will corporations, those who develop the technology, have a say in how that technology is used, how it evolves, right? And then, and so on. So these are the three perspectives, and these are the three ways in which, we can think about, assess, evaluate, understand AI in a particular context. And what I'm trying to say is that when you study something like, technology and society, when you bring in philosophy and you bring in sociology and you bring in anthropology, you bring in people and you bring in questions of democracy and control, then it moves away from this good technology and bad technology and optimism and pessimism, and you're able to have certain tools, critical tools, to actually think and to understand, the future of AI in the context of the legal profession in India, in your own lives, and so on, right? So it gives us a certain kind of a way to think about it. Okay, I hope that wasn't too hard and it wasn't too complex and too philosophical and too boring. And don't worry if you didn't understand all of it, because like I said, you will be doing a lot of courses before we get to this. So you'll get used to some of the abstract stuff. But I want to leave you with a video. I don't know whether you've seen this, right? So this is one of my favorite comedians again. So as you can see, I'm quite into stand-up comedy, and this is someone called Ayush Shraddha, and she has this very sort of nice video, and I'm going to play it for you. And I have a question, almost like an exercise. I want you to to start our discussion, where you have to tell me that the way in which Ayush Shraddha is talking about AI Okay, and she's talking about this dandiya sticks and AI-powered dandiya, right? So, in which perspective can we put how she's critiquing AI? In which perspective can we put? Can we put it in the first perspective, which is AI or technology is a force that will determine, there will be no room for individual choice. So, can we put her in the first perspective? Can you put her in the second perspective where she's saying, where the second perspective is that it depends on the human values, it depends on, the kind of politics, it depends on um, our laws and our governance, right? Or on the third perspective, that how this technology evolves is not fixed, it's moving, and it will depend on how society evolves, right? So please tell me which perspective you will put this video in, and give me your reasons, right? Why is it in whichever perspective you choose, 1, 2, and 3? What are your reasons for you saying that, her critique of AI, it falls in which perspective? Yeah. So that's my little exercise for you. And then I will also have a sense of what you understood from what I said. So yeah, and do enjoy this video.
अरे बाप रे अरे बाप रे Madam, you are reporting theft of dandiya sticks. Not just any dandiya sticks, Inspector.
What is this? Yeah.
अरे बाप रे Madam, you are reporting theft of dandiya sticks. Not just any dandiya sticks, Inspector. These are AI-powered dandiyas. AI-powered dandiya? Yes.
अरे पैसा है तो कुछ भी खरीदने का क्या?
This is my company's latest product.
Oh.
वाघमारे, this AI technology has become like धनिया. थोड़ा थोड़ा ऊपर ऊपर से सब पे डालने का, है ना? But this is a game changer. Because now आप डांडिया को नहीं, डांडिया आपको घुमाएगा. The AI डांडिया is your dance partner. नहीं, ये डांडिया है कि वीडियो गेम. हम लोग डांडिया को पकड़ेंगे कि डांडिया हमको पकड़ेगा. Our generative models have analyzed over 10 million Garba songs. The dandiya knows all the steps. The rhythm is in the algorithm. And with auto alignment technology, the dandiya stick will anticipate your partner's dandiya angle to give you the perfect strike every time. Every time, you'll never miss. अरे तो AI powered mosquito bat बनाने का ना? परफेक्ट स्ट्राइक. मच्छर लोग का इतना प्रॉब्लम है, मलेरिया डेंगू खत्म करो. एआई के साथ क्या टाइम पास चल रहा है, उसको पूछो मच्छर का नसबंदी कैसा करने का. दम है तो एआई ये करके दिखा. हाँ, दिस डांडिया कैन ऑल्सो मॉनिटर योर हार्ट रेट एंड बीपी. हाँ, अभी आगे डांडिया ही करेगा. अल्ट्रासाउंड, एमआरआई, एक्सरे, सर्जरी. डॉक्टर लोग क्या करेंगे?
मच्छर मारेंगे क्या?
नो प्रॉब्लम, इट इज आवर ड्यूटी. हम लोग ढूंढ के देंगे. थैंक यू, थैंक यू. वाघमारे, चहा सांगा.
हो, AI चहा.
एआई चहा.
AI अदरक इलायची.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm done. Are we good with time? And do we have any? I think there are quite a few questions. Ma'am, you're not audible.
We have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
There's a question from Swara. What's the precise difference between human-made character and evolution of technology?
So they are linked. Okay. They are connected. So I agree that they're not extremely different. The difference in the co-evolution perspective is that with co-evolution, you are taking into account the material aspect of it. You're taking into account, as Ayush Shada says, the rhythm is in the algorithm, right? So you're taking into account algorithm, you're taking into account the design, you're taking into account, the nuts and bolts that go into the making of the technology, right? And so the material aspect and the social aspect will go into, all those considerations go into the co-evolution perspective. In the human-made character, you're emphasizing a little more the human choice. Yeah, you're emphasizing the fact that the human choice can determine how the technology develops, right? And as Justice Chandrachud has said, has in that talk, that it depends on what were his words. It depends on our choice. It depends on our motivation. It depends on our what did he say? How we use the technology in our profession is in our hands, right? So the second perspective allows for that thing, how we use the technology is in our hands. But co-evolution will not say that. Co-evolution will say that it's not all in our hands. There are unintended consequences. There is path dependency. There is, it's not all flexible. There are fixities. There is design. When the algorithm comes in, there's a certain way in which, it will determine your choices. It will determine how you think. It will determine what shows up. It will determine what gets emphasized, what is the omissions and the commissions, and so on, right? So in the second part, there is a little more emphasis on the algorithm and in the material aspect of the technology, which is not there in the second. Clear? Okay. But thank you. That just shows that you listened and understood, because that's a great question. Yeah. Does anybody have an answer to my?
We would have a question in the chat. Okay, there's a reply the question that you put on the Dandiya. I don't think there has to be somebody anonymous. I mean, all of your enrolled students. So she's saying that I would put the Dandiyas in first perspective, as the sticks are controlling the movement of the individuals. That's her opinion.
Yeah, true. Although I must say, at some point she also says, okay, why can't we use it? Why this time pass with AI? Why don't we use it for, machiro ki nazdi, dengue, malaria, and so on. So somewhere of use also. But I mean, I think in some way she's saying, hum dandiya ko khelenge ya wo hame khelega. So will we be able to control AI, or will AI control us? In the same way as, internet came, things revolutionized, social media came, tablets came, phones came, and then, everything changed, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, there's also another question. So it says, technology has made humans lazy. So AI is going to make us further more lazy. How will humanity cope up with this? So any perspective?
Yeah, what is the future? Are we going to become more lazy? Are we going to become out of jobs? Will we have any meaning? I don't know. I mean, so I think the hope is that, the AI will do all the manual labor, even in the legal profession, all the sort of, the work of the clerical work, and the more manual and the more machine-like, what is the word? The more mechanical work could be done by the AI, and the more creative, the more discretionary decisions, the argumentation, all that will still be by human beings. So the answer is both yes and no. It will make us lazy, but it will also perhaps give us more time for creativity and for discretion and critical thinking and so on. And I think I remember at that launch, the one that, where we play the video, I think there was somebody who was from Wipro, and I think she said that in their law firms, they use a lot of AI, and she finds that, I mean, she says that, it takes a senior lawyer and somebody very seasoned to be able to understand and to see whether what the AI is giving you, whether it is accurate, whether it's objective. And so it really takes a lot of practice and a lot of discretion, and it takes a lot of discerning and experience to actually be able to sift the correct, the verifiable information from the unverifiable one. So, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for the reply, Shireen.
Yeah, most welcome.
So there are a few more suggestions from the students. I mean, there's a suggestion from Swara. She says that, yes, ma'am, I agree with it being the first category, but why can't it be the second category? Humans made it out for the social.
Yeah. It can be also both. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question as well as suggestion from Ashi Jain. She says, ma'am, I would love to know your opinion on this. According to you, do you think AI will significantly help bring the work pressure down for lawyers? And it might help attract more people towards the legal field?
Will it attract more people? Yes, I think the legal field is very growing, and we are moving towards a very litigious society. So yes, I mean the legal field, and particularly when it comes to AI regulation, there's a lot of scope, and there's a lot in data analysis, and there is a huge change that's definitely going to happen. But it may also lead to loss of jobs and loss of certain kinds of jobs. I mean, I see both, right? So I see work pressure coming down as well as increasing. I see the legal field growing and more people being attracted towards it, and also more redundancies. So definitely a lot of change. I think I agree with Justice Chandrachud, former justice, that it's definitely a huge revolution. It's a huge transformation, and it's inevitable. And it's a transformation that is not just going to, shift the way law is practiced. It's going to fundamentally change it. It's going to fundamentally take away the expert nature of law into something else. What that is, I think, is something we have to see. And maybe it all depends on the kind of debates we have, the kind of democratic discussion, the kind of laws we have, the kind of regulations, and some of I don't find that. I don't find that awareness. I don't find that level of public participation. I don't find that engagement. I don't find that enough of a worry that we need to have this discussion. For some reason, we're very happy with, and not holding our leaders accountable. Absolutely. Ma'am, do you believe that unskilled job sector would be most affected? Absolutely. Unskilled job sector, you mean manual work? Yeah, but a lot more. Engineering, medical, legal, all the expert-led professions, skilled job also. Skilled jobs will be highly affected because the AI is a technology that is replacing learning, right? It's replacing human reasoning, human learning, all of those, and those are skill jobs. So I think it's your skill jobs that will be most affected by AI, not just the unskilled. And that's a worry, honestly, as well, right? It's a worry. It's also, I mean, but of course, I also don't want to, go back to the optimistic pessimism. That I don't think that's very helpful. The false choice, the binary. It's also about us understanding how things are going to change. It's not as if, we haven't had big technologies coming in. We've had technological revolutions, like series of them. I mean, in fact, every decade, we're seeing a huge revolution, right? So it's not also about a worry. It's also about the fact that things are going to change. And maybe it makes sense. It's just also about assessing, understanding, evaluating, than, it just being about worrying. So, yeah.
Okay. We have a question from Rakshat Gupta. It's much more of technical, but I believe you will be able to answer some of its perspective. So he says that with human-made character and AI being automated, considering it is based on self-learning and deterministic, shaping our opinions, introducing AI into a realm of law without people being aware of its algorithm, isn't it opaque?
Yeah.
And further, it can be misused if fed with wrong data or the biased form of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. If there is no regulation and if there is no overseeing, then how does this bias get checked? How is knowledge that AI throws up, how will it be verified? How will it be certified? Right. So in the earlier science and technology ways of, that happening, there was a control, there was a human control of those institutions, right? How is when it is automated, when it is, a more mechanical or independent led exercise, then, where is that verification going to happen? Where is that certification of what is certified, what is knowledge that one can rely on? going to be differentiated from false knowledge or unverified or unobjectified, objective knowledge. So where is that verification going to happen? That's a very important. And you're right that somehow, why is that debate not happening? Why is it not so vibrant, considering that things are changing so fast and so quickly? And I don't know whether that's the case in many other countries.
There's a question from Tanisha. She proposes that AI will result in lack of employment opportunities, as she believes that this work is done by and increased efficiency, that will result in low employment. The employer will choose, go with the AI, and I progress into technology-driven world. So what is your opinion on this matter? This really happen?
Yeah, redundancy is poised to be a very important and a very unintended consequence of AI adoption. So redundancy, loss of job, loss of employment is seen as one of the most crucial consequences. And in fact, people speculate that there will be huge job losses. And in fact, the idea of work, the idea of profession, that's going to change very dramatically. Across board, across sectors, across fields. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, there's one more, again, a question from Rakshat. How can Indian society keep up with co-evolution of AI, given many people are still alien to even the basic uses of mobile phones?
So true. Yeah. So many levels at which one could answer that question, right? I wish our education system did a better job. I wish, there is so much. If you just look at technology and in philosophy, I just covered almost like a drop in the ocean. There is so much. And I wish there was more proactive ways in which we made this accessible. We made it, people knew about this. People read more, discussed more, deliberated more. I wish institutions did a better job. I wish legal professions also, and when it comes to laws and governance, I wish this was far more vibrant and people were more informed. Yeah. So yes, horizons need to be broadened. And I think general, making education a lot more meaningful, making it more informed, bringing in more philosophy. I would always say the answer to many things is better reading, better texts, better thinking, not just going in the same old patterns, right? Because if AI is coming in and so much is going to be revolutionized, then why is it not filtering into the curriculums? Why is it not filtering into the mainstream media? Why is it not filtering into mainstream conversations? Why, so there are many levels at which the problem is in the education system. It's there in media reportage. It's there in public discussions. It's there in our political systems. Why are we not choosing leaders who are enabling these conversations? Why is this not a political issue?
I think we've covered questions.
Why don't we vote on this? These are all, there are so many levels it can be answered, isn't it?
Right. Just looking for another question. There are some repetitive questions which we've already covered.
Kevin, do we want to, allow people to unmute and ask?
We can do that. Yes, if you want to, yeah. Nalini, could you allow? I would request anybody who would like to come on board and directly ask the question rather than putting up in the Q&A section.
Yourself.
You can just raise your hand, yeah.
Yeah, raise your hand and introduce yourself, and that way that it'll be, I can hear some other voice apart from my own.
You can please raise your hand and we'll allow you the access to speak. Anybody who wants to ask directly a question? Yeah, there is a Tanisha has raised her hand. Yeah. Hi, Tanisha.
Hi, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Hi, Tanisha. Hi.
Hi. So another point which I wanted to discuss here is the accessibility of AI. So as even today we are struggling to get good network ranges outside city. If AI is going to get revolutionized, then I believe that it's important to get it. It's important to make it accessible uh, all over the world so that it is
True.
easily.
True. So, we are talking about a revolution in many ways. And this is a revolution that's going to come very close at the heels of, the mobile revolution, and by which I mean, the cell phones, right? And it's strange in India, if you look, people may not have food to eat, but everybody has, internet and a phone in some ways. I mean, but I mean, I do understand there is a gap, and there are, not everybody has a smartphone, but definitely phones are, when it comes to access, I think, somehow phones have a better reach than most other products. However, we also don't have electricity. So, there is a huge sense of disparity. And you're right. With the coming in of we're saying, AI and revolution, but it will be the same sections of society who will be affected by it. And maybe it will not touch many sections, many very important, very vulnerable sections. And the gap between those and the hierarchy will actually maybe even broaden, right? So even though, we have something like internet and a very far reach, we don't have very basic provisions, right? Of say electricity, recharge, and so on, right? So that divide may just increase. And so you're right, Tanisha, that we're talking about a revolution, but we have to, even that way in which we're framing it is almost a Eurocentric Western framing, right? Of a society where access is part of the entire society. And that's not the case in the third world. So you're right in that sense. So it may be a revolution of some aspects, and which is why I'm saying, it's, I think, a bigger impact and a bigger revolution when it comes to skilled labor, right? And say like the legal profession, right? Which is in any case something which is, slightly affects certain section of society. Tanisha, I hope that answers your question. I think, is there someone, Kevin? Is there somebody else whose hand is raised? Swara, I think.
Question, I'm given access to the other student, Swara Mishra, so I'll just give her an access.
Hi, Swara.
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Good evening. Yes, you're audible. Tell me.
Ma'am, I just wanted to raise the point that there have been enough discussions about how AI will lead to unemployment, but there is not enough conversation about how AI will lead to exploitation of people. From one side of people believing misinformation and falsely spreading and influencing, manipulating people's choices and decisions, and at the other hand about the trust of the people who will be using AI, like the blind trust which we place that, okay, this has been created by Google, it has been created by AI, so it is going to be true. So I think there is exploitation on both the sides that will, happen, but there is not enough conversation about that.
Absolutely. And there's something about the algorithm, right? Which is something which has already happened in our worlds, where the algorithm is plays such a heavy role. So whether we're talking about echo chambers, whether we're talking about, and you know what echo chambers are, right? It's a bit like, you are part of a network, and it is like-minded people
And confirmation bias happening all around.
Absolutely. Confirmation bias happening all around, right? And there's a way in which the algorithm structures that. It sort of, divides people into these kinds of political groups, and also, data mining, misinformation, disinformation, all the stuff that you spoke about. So yes, could lead to huge large-scale exploitation. I mean, I'm glad you're not saying it. I didn't want to be the one saying it. I just wanted to give you the perspectives, but absolutely. And yet, there's a certain trust, as you said, there's a certain trust in technology. Technology will lead to better futures. It will lead to progress. It will lead to emancipation, right? And for some reason, that skepticism is not is not very popular, right? It's almost like a few people who share that skepticism. So you're right in that sense. I absolutely agree with you. But then I also feel that, when, I again don't want to go back into that binary of pessimism, optimism, skepticism versus celebration, and see whether, I mean, it's, like, let's face it, AI it is in the future, right? But yes, there need to be better discussions. There need to be better thinking about it, better ways of how this technology is going to be regulated. Will it be the states? Will it be companies? What about the role of people? And how is that check and balance? How is regulation going to happen? Right. So, yeah.
Anybody
Kevin,
else who would like to
already
ask
a
question?
very yeah, no, Kevin, I'm saying already a very informed student body. Huh? They already have a strong sense of opinion, I'd say.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Gauri.
Yes.
I'm Gauri. So I am not sure if I joined a little bit late, so not sure if this has already been discussed. But I believe that both ill effects and benefits of technology are majorly reaped by the younger generations, like the current one and the upcoming one. So there was a few months ago, Australia banned social media for children under 16, for minors.
Yeah.
So children don't really have the capability to discern between what is good and what is bad. So when facing with technology, especially at a very young age, there should be a lot of, I believe, a lot of regulations and and rules to using
Yeah.
technology for accessing technology, especially for minors.
Yeah, Gauri, you're in the right place. Kevin, should we tell her that how in BITS law we have a rule that we don't allow gadgets, so no mobile phones in the classroom. So not only children, even at the age of 18, you all will be
Yeah.
18 when you enter BITS law.
Yeah.
Even at the age of 18, we don't believe that students are capable of discerning, and so we took a decision, a difficult decision. We said no phones, no laptops, no devices, right? So we just have like pure teaching. And of course, students were a little angry because it was almost like we were being so authoritarian. But after a while, they thanked us. They said, we are now having conversations in the corridor. We're talking to each other. Thank you for doing this. And we found as teachers that, attention was better, discussions were better, there was better eye contact. Students were less tired. And honestly, I have two children, and I can't tell you, this is something, it's close to my heart. And I wish I could honestly have a law against technology and devices for children. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a nephew. He's about 3 years old, and he does not have food unless he has like a
Oh, Lord.
television or or a mobile in front of him. He throws a tantrum, tantrums, and he doesn't listen to anyone unless he has
Yeah.
something in front of him.
Yeah. Huge psychological effects, huge.
Yeah.
And we're still to understand. We're still to, because it is, all of these changes have just rapidly happened, right? Like between our 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and so on, right? Like it is so rapid, right? So we don't even know what, I mean, the whole thing about unintended consequences, and we don't even know the long-term effects of this. Right?
Yeah.
Like we don't have the knowledge. We haven't had the empirical data and time to collect and make sense of it, right? So, and we will know, on hindsight, what the damage is. Yeah, what you're saying, what you're describing is, I mean, I've seen it in so many places, right? As an educator, as a parent. Yeah.
I've had a lot of friends who who they studied well till 10th, and then they got social media, and then their studies went down real bad. So I'm actually glad my parents did not let me use social media until right now, actually.
Wow. Your parents would be happy to know this. Model daughter. I hope my daughter is listening wherever she is. And knowing her, she's taking my phone.
I'm probably going to delete it, but it's, I don't know, I understand why it's addicting right now.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, you're talking about children. My parents, I don't know how many of us, I know, Kevin, you may also have this. My parents in this old age, they are addicted. And I have to them, can we have no phones while dinner, please? You know, no phones on the dining table. And I mean, parents, old people.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was fun talking to you.
Thank you. It was fun talking to you as well.
Lavanya.
I think Lavanya.
Did you give Lavanya access?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Lavanya. How are you?
She hasn't joined yet.
So, ma'am,
Nalini, could you give access to Lavanya?
Yeah, Lavanya speaking. Kim.
Okay.
ma'am, am I
Hi,
audible?
Lavanya.
Yeah, you're audible. I can hear you.
So, ma'am, my question is that, like, we talked about how AI is being used in law in this session, and you also told us that law firms do use AI for their searches and everything. Ma'am, but don't you think that including AI in law as well is will just like lower down the value of lawyers? Because AI even it cannot think as well when it comes to situations and questions related to emotions, philosophy, or like social aspects. On the other hand, lawyers are real human beings and they can contemplate these things well. For example, ChatGPT 2 is an AI tool, and it's like people in our generation they use it a lot, but still many times the answers it gives are really wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so so I'm not making a normative claim. I'm not even saying that AI should be used in the legal profession. And actually, if I think about, were you there when we played the clip from former Justice Chandrachud? He
Yes,
also
ma'am.
is not saying that it's good. I mean, he's saying that legal profession is behind its times, and it's, there's a way in which we need better technology because we need better delivery of justice. He's saying all of that, but he's also, from the points he's laying out, it's not very clear. He's saying there's a routinization and so on. But I think it is, because as a we are a society that is moving towards profit, and in terms of technology development, there's always a sense that one has to advance and progress. I don't see AI not being adopted. Honestly, I feel like that's just a reality, in a way that there may be no choice. And you're right, it may harm the interests of lawyers. But of course, if you think that lawyers are people who use philosophy, that's probably not the case, unless you're talking about legal research. In legal practice, you don't often have that kind of that kind of I mean, there are certain stages at which the work is quite mechanical, right? Whether it's about finding a legal precedent and so on. So the work is a little mechanical, and all of that may actually be taken over by the AI. And it may be something that no one can do anything about. But will the humans do a better job? Perhaps. We don't know. Will there be less human errors? Will there be less errors if it is done by AI? We don't know. I mean, even human beings, even lawyers make errors, right? So, so what I'm trying to say is that, the AI, I think there's a sense in which it is going to be the reality. And in fact, nobody may have a choice in the matter. And it will transform and revolutionize the way the legal profession works in a very fundamental way. It may even take down the expertise and the niche and the paychecks of lawyers, right? So law will be a lot more democratic, cheaper, accessible, and it may affect the interest of lawyers in a big way. That may happen. But can we do anything to stop it? May perhaps not. And I think which is why the perspective which tells you that that there's something autonomous about how this works. Unless one really has a very conscious decision, and as I think who spoke about Australia, what was her name? Uh, not Tanisha, the person, Gauri, I think, when, unless you have strong laws that really prohibit it, which consciously regulate it, I don't see that happening. I don't see AI not coming into the legal profession. So in a sense that it's a lot more autonomous, and it may actually affect the prospects of the legal profession in a big way. It may affect younger lawyers in a big way, but it may just be the impending future. Lavanya, you have something else to say?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I do understand that AI is our future. I do understand that. But maybe we can limit the usage, right? Even today, it's not like AI is being used in everything, and the generation that's even younger than us, the Gen Alpha generation, they literally use it for every single thing they need to do, for like even simplest of homework questions. Ma'am, I think that if if things keep on happening in this way, and we give unlimited access to usage of AI and everything, won't it just harm the way that humans would think? Like, as a human, if I'm in a court hearing, and I have to create an argument that sympathizes with my client, I'll have to think emotionally, and I'll have to make arguments that match to his situation and level. I don't think that AI would be able to do that.
Absolutely. And that's what also Justice Chandrachud is saying, right? There'll be a routinization. There will be a certain digitization, right? It will become so clinical and so, what do you say, so data driven. Where will the space for human emotion be? And what is law? Law is all about, you go to law when you're in a crisis, right? A marital crisis, a property crisis, a business crisis, right? So where will the space for human emotion be? And that's a very, very good point. And I think that, hopefully, when you all pass out and you all go into the profession, maybe, you all can make a difference. That really should be how, how you should approach it, how you should think of it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Such good questions.
I think we've covered most of the questions.
All right. So such good questions. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. We thank you, everyone. It was so nice to speak to you. It was so nice that things got across. It was so wonderful to hear from you, both the messages and when you all spoke. I look forward to seeing you all, actually.
Thank you. Thank you, Shireen, for joining for today's session. Thank you, admission teams. Thank you, Mrinalini.
Yes, thank you, Mrinalini. She coordinated all of this. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shireen. Thank you.
Thank you.